Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of Spiritual Youth Circle. We are so excited that you all are here, and today's topic is called Yoga of the Tongue. And if you want, you can all turn your cameras on and always feel free to participate throughout. So we can start off with a quick icebreaker. And today's question is, what is the best trip you've ever been on? So I can start. Um, Mine was probably once I went to Hawaii, and yeah, Manya can go next.
Thank you. Okay, hi everyone. I would probably say Disneyland. It was like all my cousins came and then we went like together. Avantika, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite trips I went on actually this Friday, I went to San Francisco and Sausalito with some of my friends. And it was really cool because San Francisco is really cloudy, but like the moment we drove to Sausalito, it was super sunny. Um, Popcorn unshoe.
Yeah, I would say a couple years ago, I went to France with my school friends, and it was actually just with my school class, and that was very fun because we were all independent there and we could do anything we wanted. So, popcorn to parrot.
Yeah, I'm kind of similar to Anshu. A few years back, I went to Universal Studios. It's like just a group of my friends from my class. And it was really nice because there was no parents there, so we could pretty much do whatever we wanted. Popcorn Niharika.
I would say the best trip I went on was on the East Coast. We went on a road trip and we met like old friends and made new ones. So it was fun. Popcorn, Rista. Okay. Is anybody else? Jeremiah, maybe?
I think he said he's gonna be away from his computer, but Geetha Priya, if you're there, you can go.
I went on a trip with my family to Hawaii in like 2013. It was really nice. It was like one of the most memorable trips I've ever been on. Um, I popcorn Jeremiah. Oh wait, sorry. I think he said he's not near his computer. Priyanka.
So like, wait, what were we talking about?
I think it was our favorite trip that we went on.
Ooh, oh my gosh. All right, let's see. Um, hmm. It might be one time me and my family we went over to Florida to go visit like our family friends, and so we got to visit like Disney World, like all of that. So I'd say that's like the best trip because it was like the first time going on like a big trip in like such a long time and like visiting Disneyland, and we got to try the Mickey Mouse pancakes were top tier, I had to say. um, I'll popcorn to who hasn't gone yet? Let's see. Geeta Priya?
I think I just went.
Oh, you just went? Alright, let's see. Did Surabhi go yet?
No, I didn't go. Thanks, Priyanka. The best trip I went on, no, I think probably, I went to India once in 1 year, and it was really nice. Um, I went to a place in Bengal, and it was the best time of my life. So I think that's probably my favorite. And did everyone else go? I guess.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I think so. Yeah, great hearing from you guys. So we can start off with our first point, which is by Manya. So Manya can go.
Okay, hi everyone. Okay, so our topic of today is yoga of the tongue. So we're gonna be talking about a very practical topic. And when you see what I'm talking about, you'll see that it's something very close to. It's your tongue. And because yoga, according to the ancient wisdom literatures, actually begins with the tongue, we're going to talk about speech, how we use our tongue, the effect it has on people, and how we can really notice it. So, our internal environment, especially, is adjustable through the process of yoga. So we can use our speech and tongue to clear our consciousness. And when we do that, it also has an effect on people around us. And I think you will agree with me on how the words we say have a noticeable impact. Can I get a thumbs up on that? Okay. So we may forget the power and gift that we have. So we're going to look at that today. And we're going to remember that we have something close at hand. And with a little adjustment, we can change our lives in a positive way. And to do that, and to notice really the presence of our tongue, we're going to do a small activity. So we'll just close our eyes, and we're going to notice our breath, and we'll just keep breathing and notice especially the presence of our tongue. You can even try to feel it. A lot of times we don't notice it, it just goes by. But as we're speaking, it really helps us speak, and it's a free gift. It comes standard with every human body, but the way you use it determines the quality of your life. So I'm going to read out some quotes and affirmations, and you guys can just listen. Okay, so I'll start with the quotes. The tongue has no bones, but it's strong enough to break a heart. So be careful with your words. If we understood the power of our thoughts, we would guard them more closely. But if we understood the awesome power of our words, we would prefer silence to almost anything negative. In our thoughts and words, we create our own weaknesses and our own strengths, but we can always replace the negative with positive. You can keep breathing. I'll read out some affirmations, and if you would like, you can repeat after me under muted mics. I am superior to negative thoughts and low actions. I forgive those who have harmed me in the past, and I peacefully detach from them. Everything that is happening now is happening for my ultimate good. I'm not my body, I am a spiritual being. And now just bring your awareness back to your breath, and you can open your eyes and come back to the Zoom room. And just right now, we'll take some reflections, anything you notice, and were you able to really maybe notice the presence of your tongue in the beginning? Yeah? Okay. Well, our speech is creative and we're creative. And one of the most important aspects of our creative nature is our speech. So, like we agreed on, what we say actually has an impact on the world. So, how we use our tongue is really consequential. And in the ancient wisdom literatures, it says, if one can control the tongue, it's possible for one to control all of the other senses. And this is a consistent theme that appears, but isn't it nice how with one sense, all the other senses just follow along? That's why we say that tongue is like a gateway. So we can use our tongue for a higher purpose. And this kind of connects back to what we were talking about, I think, simplicity and purity in the last sessions, of how we can make our speech pure and we can really be truthful. And that also has the effect on our consciousness, because the words that we're emanating, they become sound and then they go in our brains and they have an effect. So this activity was simply for you to notice the presence of your tongue, how you're using it, and how later on we can use it for a higher purpose. So I'll just open the floor to any reflections, anything that you have to say, and then if not, we can move on to the next point by Anshu.
One of one of the affirmations you said I really liked, which was about how the tongue may have no bones, but it has the power to break hearts. And just in that moment, with our eyes closed and really feeling our tongues, I felt really powerful, just like with the power of my tongue and how like just through my words, it could make great impacts.
Yeah, I also want to say something like that. When you said that quote, I was like, wow, that is so powerful. I remember there's like a history quote saying, this the pen is mightier than the sword, right? Our words have so much weight to them, and sometimes we neglect the notion, or we're not conscious of how powerful they are. Um, I remember when we were kids, like when I was a little bit younger, my parents were like, don't say anything mean because, you could really hurt people's feelings and it could actually last for a very long time. But yeah, very, very nice beginning, you guys. Thanks.
Oh, and to add to that, I thought it was also nice that there's an addition to that where I'm superior to like low thoughts, low voices, low words, and yeah, and that's a great affirmation that I'll definitely keep and continue to remind myself of.
Those are really nice. And I also think that it can also go in a positive way. So when you say something that's nice, it can also have a positive impact, no matter if you think like it's small or big. But I really liked what you were saying about how I'm superior to that. I like that affirmation too. Okay, if not, we can move on to the next point.
All right. Thank you so much, Manya, for those wonderful affirmations and that activity. And if we think about speech for a second, it's actually such a rare commodity that we have. Out of all the millions of species in the world, we're the only ones that can articulate such clear thoughts with mood and diction and so many synonyms and all sorts of ways to convey our thoughts in so many different languages. And this is really one of the greatest benefits of being a human and one of the greatest powers that we have. But with this great power also comes great responsibility. And it's important that we don't just use this and take advantage of being able to speak. And it's important that we actually regulate our speech. And Bharat will be talking about gossip and criticism, and which is one of the ways we can actually start regulating speech.
Yeah, thank you, Anshu. So basically, I'm going to be talking about gossip specifically and how that really has a negative impact on people's lives and how it's one of the biggest ways that we can regulate our speech by staying away from it. So just to begin with, how many people here have had some experience with gossip, either being on the receiving end or the giving end? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of head nods and up. So I've also had a lot of experience with it, both on the receiving end and on the giving end. And I just want to think of this question internally. You don't really have to answer out loud, but have you felt good on either side of this situation? No, right? And I've actually felt the same thing. For me, it's like if I'm on the receiving end, I feel bad. If I'm on the giving end, I often even feel a bit worse because with the receiving end, you're not really in control, but on the giving end, it's like you could have stopped that from happening. So for me personally, on the receiving end, what I tend to feel is that when there's false rumors being spread around about me, I tend to feel like I need to change myself to prove that those rumors aren't true. For example, if there's something like, oh, his fashion is out of sense or something like that, I'll try to show that I'm fashionable and stuff like that, just to sort of affirm that I'm still not that rumor. But that still means that I'm changing myself in a way that I shouldn't be, because it's a false rumor. It doesn't really affect my character. And then on the giving end, in second grade, I think it was, I had this super immature thing. Basically, me and my friend group, we were second graders, right? So we were just making jokes, and I remember there was this one kid who was a tad bit overweight or something, and so we started a short joke about it, and we thought it would just be a joke. So we started telling other people it was a joke, and we didn't think it would go much farther than that. But a few weeks later, I saw that same kid. He changed what he was wearing. He sat alone at lunch. He was shy. He used to be really extroverted, but then he turned introverted. And it really showed me the power that like we were saying, that speech has such a big power, and how we use that speech is so important. And it really made me realize that gossip and criticism is something that we should avoid at all costs, because it really changed that person for the worse. And the fact that I had I was part of it really made me feel guilty, and it created this mental baggage in my mind, I caused this. And we were talking about a few weeks ago, there's this idea of mental purity, and one of the biggest ways that we can achieve that mental purity is by not engaging in gossip, because there's that mental baggage that gets relieved when you like stay away from it. So two of the ways that like I've seen that I can like, I guess, not participate in gossip the best is, first of all, don't start gossip. I think that's pretty much implied. And the next one is like, when you see gossip is happening, don't participate in it. Like that can either be like, if your friend tells you something, you like tell them that's gossip, like you shouldn't do that, it's gonna hurt that person's feeling. And if they still do it, then that's like their problem. But if not, like if they do, then you can just not participate and not spread it even further. So those are two things that I've seen that have helped me like stay away from gossip. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. But I want to hear like your guys' opinions on like what are your guys' thoughts of gossip? Like if you have any personal experiences and you want to share, you can feel free to. And yeah, so just feel free to unmute and share your realizations.
I think it's such an enticing thing. Sorry, Manya. I think yeah, we know it's wrong, but it's such an enticing thing. And yeah, I don't know why, why like we want to do it so much, but like I feel like, and I've heard this from other people that um the reason we want to do gossip is because we want to be close to someone, like we want to have some intimate details about a person, but we don't. So we artificially try to say, oh, I know so much about this person, I know this, I know that. And you try to like artificially make a connection with someone. So it's like an artificial bit for connection. And I feel like it's so difficult not to do it, but it's like it breaks hearts and it's not right. It's very difficult not to do.
I feel that so much because I think another reason why people partake in gossip a lot is because it's also like such a so as like teenagers or like as like young adults, it's such a big part of our culture right now, like just gossip, trying to like fit in with others. I think that's also another big part, like since like say if like your friend group is like gossiping about this one girl and you want to be like closer to them, you might partake in those same activities because you just want to be closer with them. It might not even be that like you think that girl actually did those things that they're gossiping about, but it's just for that fact to just be included into like those types of activities.
Yeah, I feel like another big cause is that talking like poorly about someone else can make you feel better about yourself because you're shifting like all the negative thoughts to someone else, and you may be insecure yourself. However, it's just like difficult to know that that's not the solution to be like more secure with yourself.
Yeah, it's also like it's almost like you possess information that the other person doesn't have. So you think like you're valuable. Like, oh, I have this, and I'm only going to share with a few people. So it's almost like you create this like little click, artificial click, just so that you can create a story about somebody else. But one of my favorite quotes is like, "Be so busy that you can't focus on what other people are doing." Not in a negative way. It's just like you don't have time to gossip because you're constantly in the state of improvement of yourself, and you don't want to speak ill about somebody else because that will actually be detrimental to your own progress. And I remember in elementary school, the teachers was like, if you see somebody getting bullied and if you don't do anything to stop them, you are also that bully as well. You have to stand up and take a leadership role and kind of stop them. But yeah.
Yeah, those are such amazing points. Thank you all for sharing. Yeah, so now we can pass it on to Anshu to learn about, a bit of how consciousness affects our speech.
Yeah, thank you so much, Parth. And I was thinking that really what actually comes out of our mouth and what we tell others is really a reflection of our consciousness internally, because whatever comes out is really what we're thinking. So how do we actually elevate our consciousness so we don't spew such hatred and gossip about others? I think there's so many ways, but I think one that's very applicable for us is I've seen myself personally every time I go and just scroll on social media, just going through a ton of negative energy. I just see that myself, I've just become totally drained and just in a bad mood. And then I become prone to talking bad about others or making impulsive decisions. And really, that's just not good for me because I have the opportunity to actually not degrade my consciousness. And I'm not saying that social media itself is negative, but really the content that you expose yourself to, just seeing what kind of energy and what kind of effect it's having on you, I think is super important. Do any of you guys have any thoughts on social media or how that's had an effect on you?
Social media for me has like depending if you're like following say like your friends who are like always posting pictures of like themselves and like these really cute trendy outfits, or like buying a lot of things like a different buying a lot of stuff, having like these cute clothes, having like a really nice body, it really like degrades like your own self-esteem just like looking at it and things like that. And when your like self-esteem is like all like low, that's probably when you feel like more easier and more prone to like really like trying to also bring others down, because that's just how you feel inside as well.
Yeah, especially with all the different ways that pictures can be edited nowadays. It's really not a reflection of reality when you go on social media.
Yeah, I also feel like if you consume the wrong content, it puts like what Priyanka was saying that sometimes if you like, it's so easy to compare yourself by looking at like the best versions of themselves because everyone portrays like their best version of themselves on social media. Yet one should like realize that everyone's still human and we don't get to see like the other 99% of their lives.
Yeah, that makes me think about this point about how as kids we're really like taught to compare ourselves, and so like we really don't have like an internal sense of like we don't have like the wisdom or the experience to kind of judge ourselves for who we are. Instead, we like look to the external and like see, oh, this person's doing that, I'm gonna copy that, and we don't really think about it. We're just like running around doing whatever as kids. And I feel like a lot of people, or I mean, I continue to do this, and it's still like a habit for like to compare uh, ourselves most of the time. And so and with social media, it kind of just amplifies it by comparing ourselves to like the best versions of people, like how it's portrayed in social media. So,
Okay, well, thank you guys so much for those points. I think it's really one of the biggest issues facing our generation, being able to manage social media. And it's really nice to hear how you guys have also recognized this issue to have prevalence. So I was also thinking that sometimes the lines between when you're in a discussion with your friends, sometimes the lines between what is actually gossip and what is not gossip becomes very blurred, because sometimes you might be thinking, oh, I'm just having fun. It's not gossip. And how do I actually know if this is gossip or not? And I found a helpful acronym. It's actually very popular. A lot of you might have heard of it. It's called THINK, which is true, helpful, inspirational, necessary, and kind. And out of those, I'll just focus on true, helpful, and kind, because I think those are in self-encompassing of all of them. So if you're about to say something and you think to yourself, is what I'm about to say actually even true? Do I know it's true? And if you're not actually sure that it's true, it's a big red flag then that what you're about to do is gossip, because gossip is all about creating a bunch of hypotheticals and discussing things that might not even be true. Now, if you've confirmed that it is true, then you can think, is it actually helpful? Because there's plenty of true statements that you can say, but that doesn't just justify you saying it just because it's true. Like if I were to tell someone, your great grandfather passed away, like I'm sure they would have already known it's a true statement, but that doesn't help anything, right? And so once you've determined that it is actually helpful, in the way that you're going to say it, will it actually be kind? Because there's so many things you can say that are both true, could also help the person, but in the way you say it, that'll actually determine if it ends up helping the person, if you say it in a kind way. Because if you don't say it in a kind way, then the person will likely not even be receptive if your goal is to help the person. Do any of you guys have any thoughts on this acronym or any other ways you think of identifying gossip?
Yeah, I definitely think the last part about being kind, I think a few sessions ago we were talking about like how you wield the sword of kindness or something, and it was like you can either be say it in a mean way or say it in like a constructive criticism way. So yeah, I think that part matters a lot.
I also like the part where it's like the helpful part, like whether this like piece of information is like helpful to spread on or anything like that. I think we get kind of like very swept up into like, um I suppose like, the whole drama aspects of other people's lives before we realize just how much it like impacts them. Like, is it really necessary to like, tell other people that this really bad thing happened to this one person? Like, is it really helpful towards them if this is spread around to everybody else? And is it really helpful that like, everybody even knows about it in the first place? Like, are they going to help with the situation, or are they just going to make it worse? Like, that whole differentiates is like very important too.
Exactly. And then one thing I was also thinking of is how do you know if it's helpful or not? One way to think, just to create the right mindset, is if we were to have this discussion in front of the person, would he be fine with that or she be fine with that? Would the person have a positive reaction if you were to discuss in front of that person? If not, it's likely to not be helpful. So, anyone have any other thoughts on this? All right, thank you guys so much, and we can move on now to Avantika.
Okay, so far in this presentation, we've reached this point where we've spoken about the austerity of speech and how important it is to use our words correctly. And it is pretty difficult, but let me just share an example from my life where it may seem not so difficult. So the other day, or like last week, my mom forgot that I needed her to sign a form for me for like the last week, and I'd remind her every single morning continuously. And on the due date, like the exact moment I had to turn it in, I went to her desk to see if she had signed it or not, and then I saw it empty. So I wasn't really happy about it. So I said, "Wow, Ma, thank you so much for being on time." And technically, I guess that was austerity of speech because I was being nice and I even expressed my gratitude. Okay, so clearly that wasn't the right way to go about it. And the reason it was like, the reason that was the wrong way was, although I guess like I did say the words thank you or whatever else, my intention was in the wrong place. So I wasn't really feeling any sort of gratitude in that moment. And a better way to have gone about it was to say, like, bring up to her how I really wish she had signed it on time and how I had continuously reminded her. But I ended up using like sarcasm to disguise my like true feelings. And the point that I'm like, my whole topic is about is what's impressed will be expressed. So it's all about intentions and how my internal intention with my speech to express my annoyance was expressed. And you can use like polite words to disguise it, but since my intention was not to be polite, it didn't come off that way either. Another way this can be seen is constructive criticism. I think someone mentioned this before, but are you really saying the criticism to help the person? Are you trying to hurt their feelings by pointing out a flaw? So just by thinking about the intentions of your actions, your words, it's really like astounding to see the results it can have. Does anyone have any like particular examples of where they've seen how intention behind speech has made a difference in their lives? It can be like yourself or someone else who like spoke to you.
I remember this instance in elementary school where if you were like fighting with someone and you had like a really big fight, and then I would like say sorry but not mean it. But then I think my mom, she was like, if you don't say sorry like you mean it, I'm not gonna let you go. And then she did that every time. Even like when me and my brother were fighting, we were like it was so intense and we were like, okay, sorry. And then I was just like, go. And she was like, no, you have to say sorry like you mean it. So I was reflecting on that when you said intentions.
Yeah, that's a really relatable example. Anyone else want to share?
I actually really like that topic, what you brought up, like, the power of intention, because so many times, like when you're busy and when you're working and when your mind, like there's just so many different things on your mind. As long as your intention is not to harm the person or say something bad, you can always go ask for forgiveness, right? And the person will understand, like, hey, do you know what? Maybe you were just stressed, or maybe anxiety, or so many different other things. But sometimes these little sarcastic remarks, right? They may seem like very not as bad, but if your intention is to actually really hurt the individual and make them feel like really crappy about themselves, then that's not the best thing. But then that also gives you an opportunity to build a closer relationship with them, right? Of actually coming a deeper understanding, and then you can also have self-awareness as well on your end, so you know exactly, and you can catch yourself when those are happening. I know when I was working, like I always had to check my intention, how I spoke to my staff or anything else. But very good point.
Yeah.
I feel like, sorry, Avantika, you can
Oh,
go
wait,
ahead.
no, go ahead. I was just gonna go ahead.
Okay, well, I was just thinking, like, this thing about intention, I feel like it happens so much, at least for me, like, and I feel like it happens like the other way around. Like, my mom will have like the intention, like, I want my daughter to study, but she'll say like, oh, you never study. Like the intention is like you need to study, but like I also think like it's important for us to understand like sometimes things can come off in such a rude way, but actually a person like actually means the best for us. Like actually digging deep, like what are the actual needs of this person, rather than taking it as face value. Oh, like you don't care about me, you're so rude, something like that. Like digging deep and figuring out what do they really mean, what do they really want. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, wait, I really relate to that. Like I see that all the time, like especially with maybe it's just my parents, but like parents in general, they always have the right intentions and they probably care for us more than like any other individual does. But it's just really important to be able to communicate your words correctly that align with your intentions, or else it can come off harmful. And even with others, like if you're feeling that like someone's hurting you, you can think about their intention and where they're coming from to see if that's like actually the case. Anything else, or I can move on to the next point.
I was thinking about like the role of like the anger plays in the whole thing, just because sometimes if you're very angry at somebody, the intention very clearly comes through like through sarcasm. I tend to like if I'm really pissed off at someone, I don't really like go and tell them I'm pissed off or something. I'm just extremely sarcastic with them and like really try to get at them for it. And I've learned that oftentimes I've learned that oftentimes it's best that I become detached from the situation, just because if I don't become detached, I end up having a really messed up interest in the situation because the interest is not positive at all anymore. It's more like I want that person to understand like what they've done, sort of thing. And like once I've learned that like once I become detached from the situation, it's more like a huge burden that's been lifted off of me because I really like it's like a level of like healthy not caring.
Yeah, that was actually the next thing I was going to talk about about like how if you have very heavy emotions, you can completely lose sight of your intention in the process. And like Shibetta said, like literally exactly what I was going to say about how your intention can actually be to make the other person feel the same way you made them feel. So in general, when having like really strong, heavy emotions, it's usually best to like take some time for yourself before speaking to the other person, or else you'll end up saying like it's really easy to end up saying like a bunch of impulsive things. Like usually whenever I'm in like a stressed or like in a feeling like a strong emotion towards someone and I like consult a friend about it, they'll always say sleep on it, or like get some time for yourself so you can really process what you're saying before you do harm to yourself or that other person. The next thing I wanted to mention is how it's important to keep good intentions as your words, because as cheesy as it sounds, they can actually change the world. and it can, like, in a more like localized way, it can greatly impact those around you. So if like you tell someone one kind thing, it can change their attitude, leading to a change in their actions and behavior, and then slowly they'll end up saying another kind thing, and then like the cycle will go on and on. So just by like the power of your words, you can greatly inspire someone, and it's all done through like the correct intention. Does anyone else have anything they want to like mention about intentions, or how like they've noticed when they have like heavy emotions and they speak, it doesn't like serve them well?
Okay, yeah, I've noticed that a lot of the time in heated situations, like if I have like a friend of mine that I'm in like a certain like situation with, I've learned that a lot of the time what happens is the amount of respect that is present is often like lost in the shroud of like conflict. And oftentimes, like as you said, like even saying that one like nice thing in the middle there could be like a big game changer just because it sets the tone completely. Like it resets the tone completely because like it lets it kind of like grounds everybody in the situation, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, like it would just remind, like it just shows like your intention's good. Okay, that is it for my point. So next person can go on.
Okay, thank you, Vanjika. If you could screen share first the picture I want to show. And in advance, I apologize for any background noise. I'm kind of in a park, so if you hear anything, I'm sorry. So basically, here's a picture of a boat sailing through the open ocean. And what we can see is that the most important part of this boat is the rudder. And what the rudder does is basically it steers the boat exactly where it wants to go. So if we were to compare this boat to a human body and the rudder to a human body part, what would you kind of think of comparing it to? Does anybody have any thoughts? You can just shout it out.
It's kind of like reasoning or like logic, steer your thoughts in the right direction.
It's kind of like the shape of a tongue too.
Yeah, I think a lot of, yeah, what Angie said, a lot of the answers, I see how you would get there too. But it does look like a tongue to me too, because it's flat and it's kind of rounded. And if you were to think about it proportionally, it would probably be like a tongue. But other than that, in functionality, it's also very similar because a tongue, it kind of guides you exactly where you want to go, and it shapes how we deal with like people and things. So it helps us go places and reach the places that we want to go. So this was very general terms speaking. So if we were to go deeper into it, we can think about it like how we use our tongue to commit, because whatever words we speak by using our tongue, those words become our bond. And when we say certain things, we're probably bound to doing them. One example is the words I do, and in like a legal sense, you can get married by just those two words. So even just not even those words, but all words in general have a lot of weight. And therefore, we should really try our best to make sure our actions align with our words. And when they don't, like if, for example, if you commit to someone that you're going to be doing something and then you don't do it, what kind of feelings do you guys feel that are brought about? There's an interesting mix. You can put it in the chat if you want. Yeah, definitely. I was thinking of guilt too. And embarrassment, yes, I was definitely thinking of that one too. And these feelings kind of just like make your reputation of yourself, yes, disappointment, go down. And also maybe like the reputation others might hold of you. So I've encountered this situation because I'm not all that great at like making my actions line with my words, but because I try to make them positive. But when I was rethinking how I'm not able to do this, I was realizing that if I said things that were more realistic, things that I was actually able to commit to, I would have probably been able to fulfill my commitment and make sure that my words are my bond. Because like it helped me think in a more like baby steps manner, and that helps you reach your goals much easier as well. So walking the talk not only goes for commitments, but also like expectations that we hold out of others. And there's this actually like maybe ancient story that goes to like show this. So there was this mother and she had a son who was kind of problematic because he ate a lot of sweets. And his mother wanted him to stop and he didn't. So she was like, okay, I'm gonna go to stage and tell the stage to tell him to stop, because the stage probably has higher authority, whatever. So she goes to the sage and the sage is like, come back after 2 weeks. I can't tell your son this right now. And she's confused, but she goes away. And after she comes back 2 weeks later, she asks her son, or asks the sage, why did it take you 2 weeks to say such a simple sentence? And the sage was like, well, 2 weeks ago, I myself was eating sweets. So I couldn't have told your son to stop eating sweets when I myself was eating sweets. And that just shows like a level of self-respect and like how he's really truly holding his words to his bond. And I've also noticed that if you're asking someone to strictly follow something or you expect something out of someone else, you should make sure that you hold the same expectation for yourself. In my personal case, I had the expectation on me to sleep at 10:30, and usually my entire family sleeps like somewhere around 11. We don't really sleep at 10:30 that often. So it was difficult for me to keep up with that and sleep at 10:30. So it just never ended up happening. And what I realized in hindsight was that if we all like worked together and were like, let's change our sleep schedule together instead of just imposing it on one person, it would have been much more effective and we could have probably achieved that goal in like a faster and more approachable way. So there's a distinction between imposing and suggesting growth together. And that's why it's like, you're not, it's okay to have these conversations where you can grow together. And so another rounded approach to this kind of thought process of holding the same expectations out of others that you hold for yourself is like not saying words that are criticism when you don't uphold to that criticism yourself. I've seen this quote where it's like, if you're pointing one finger at someone, 4 fingers are pointing back at you. So you should probably think about what kind of expectations you're holding for yourself. And a real life example I've seen, I'm pretty sure all of you guys know Charlie D'Amelio. She's like a very popular dancer. And she's actually been dancing for like many years now, and she has tremendous experience in that field. But whenever she posts dance videos, half of the comments are like hate comments. And I'm like, sure, half the people do not know how to dance as well as her or like have the same amount of experience as her. So it just like, people should say words that they can themselves live up to. So we should just rethink how much words have weight and how reasonable our commitments, and that can help us make reasonable commitments, and that helps us progress faster towards our goals. And we can also have a great collaborative effort when we're not expecting something out of others that we don't have expectations for ourselves. And that's why we can move away from all this unnecessary criticism. And so altogether, we can have clean and reasonable speech that helps us go in the direction that we want to go, because our tongue is the rudder and it steers us where we want to go. So this kind of speech is clean speech, and it's really important to life. And as Manya was saying in her beginning quotes, thoughts are really powerful too. So if you can just show this slide of how thoughts have such a big impact and how they can manifest into different things and really influence your future. And before that, if anybody has any reflections, I know I've been speaking a lot and kind of fast too. So I want to just open it up for that. It's any thoughts on anything?
I like the point you mentioned about criticism and how people criticize others, although they themselves probably couldn't do what they're criticizing. And I noticed this a lot in sports fans, watching TV. I've watched basketball a lot with friends, and sometimes people say things like, oh, that was an easy dunk, or that was a wide open three, right? But the people themselves that are making these comments don't understand how difficult these things are, because they just see it all the time and they don't understand all the other factors. There's thousands of fans and pressure, but then they make comments like this, even though it's actually much harder than what they think. So yeah, I like that point that you mentioned.
Yeah, I think exactly what you just said. Before, I used to play soccer around the world, and people would always have a comment. I was a goalie, right? So the hardest position, and older people that probably never played soccer goalie in their life would come up to me and give me like all this advice and like you should do this. Uh, but I understood that the intention was, just to kind of help me out. And I took that humble approach and I said, okay, I didn't have to accept it. I just, appreciated it. But I think our tongue, if we show appreciation, is so powerful. And I just want to mention, Jeremy, you always have the best wall display, like the background. I love that picture. So, let's definitely show some love to Jeremy. He's always like coming through with like his best background. So yeah, I'll love to hear from him.
Yeah, that's really great. Uh, the whole idea about kind of just taking what other people are saying, like, and not really doing much with it, and not really taking that personally, and also uh, not being like attacked by it, and that's where that detachment comes in. And I like how in the affirmation a while ago there was this other word. It was like, I am peacefully detached. And yeah, and really you need to be in that state of like peacefulness and mindfulness in your current situation to be detached in the first place. And so it's continuing to cultivate that environment for yourself. And that's really hard though when people are criticizing you or something. So it is like a practice to continue cultivating.
Yeah, a point I really liked was the idea of like not overcommitting, because like I often find myself like committing to things that I'm like, I overwhelm myself by committing to too many things, and I oftentimes have to like tell the person like I can't do this anymore, like my bad or stuff like that, and it makes me feel like I let them down because they had this expectation from me. And like I like the idea of just like starting in baby steps and understanding that like by committing I'm like giving an expectation to that person, and if I don't fulfill that expectation, it's like it's my fault and I feel like the sense of guilt.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for sharing. I think those are really powerful thoughts, and they've definitely inspired me in some way too. So, yeah, going back to the slide, what Manya was saying was like thoughts are really powerful and they can manifest easily into our words if we think about things a lot. And our words can become our actions, and our actions can shape our habits. And whatever habits we have can definitely have an impact on what kind of character we have. And our character is how we like interact with the world and interact with different people. So that definitely has an impact on our future. So it's just this simple thought process, but and it starts with thoughts, but it has such a big impact, and words are so tangible. They can really become real things. And another thing to show that is this study of cymatics. So cymatics is like these people discovered that when they put sound frequencies on, say, like a metal plate or some like object, it turns into like it like turns into shapes, and it's so tangible. So if you want to see that video right now, it's really cool.
For us, the Chladni experiment. What we can see here is a metal sheet, this time connected to a sound driver and being fed by a frequency generator. And as the frequencies increase, so do the complexities of the patterns that appear on the plate, as you can see for your own eyes.
Okay, I just thought that was so cool because I never thought of that like ever happening. So it just reminded me like sound is way more tangible than we think. And if these like frequencies with no intention or no like real words being spoken has such beautiful shapes, then can you imagine like words with the right intentions taking shape in like our being and like actually influencing everything that we do and like that whole process we saw up to our future. And I think that's one reason that affirmations are so powerful, because they're imbued with like right intentions and they're imbued with energy. And what we say, energy flows there. And I'm sure you've heard this before, probably from Swika, that where attention where attention flows, energy, where attention goes, energy flows. I cannot speak today. I'm so sorry. So when you have your attention in the right place with the right intention, then affirmations are really powerful and they work. Thank you. So basically to guide our life in a positive way and to create like a beautiful world around ourselves, we need to use positive, reaffirming, truthful, and doable speech. And one more thing is saying beautiful things makes an impact, but also hearing them makes an impact. I used to do Taekwondo a few years ago when I was younger, and we used to have outdoor testing. It was really rigorous. And our instructors, it's part of karate, they used to scream in our faces so that we would keep going. And they would say things like, keep going and don't give up and don't stop. But if they said things like, you're falling behind, you're lacking, keep going, like, why are you failing at this? If they said things like that, I would have definitely given up and I wouldn't have been able to get to that next level. So even like the words we hear have such a big impact on us. So we should place ourselves around like good sound vibrations that we get from people and maybe like good music too. So in this way, our tongue can really guide us and be a rudder for us in life and take us exactly to the places that we want to go. If we think about our commitments and our truthful speech and our doable speech and what we hear, all of that stuff. Does anybody have any further reflections about this point?
Can I ask a question about affirmations? Um, do affirmations work? And I want to understand, like, is there like science behind it? And like, why do affirmations work though? Like what I think is like if someone is like doesn't feel like they're beautiful and they're constantly yelling into the mirror like I am beautiful, I am beautiful, I am beautiful, does that like actually like make them feel pretty? Like I'm not sure, I've never tried it before, but has anyone tried it and has it actually helped?
I mean, I like affirmations a lot. I follow this account on Instagram, also run by my friend, called Back the Affirmations. And yeah, exactly. They work if you believe in them. And also if you've heard the phrase fake it till you make it. I just like pretend I'm like pretty and like it just like I don't know, it somehow works. It's really powerful. And another thing I thought about is like maybe different energies if you or different people, if you say like positive things around them, they'll probably help you get to the places you want to go. And that also helps affirmations like come into life. And I really noticed that in my life.
Yeah, for affirmations in general, I do some in the morning, and like Niharika said, it's really fake it till you make it because you continue saying this thing again and again every day. And although you may not believe it, slowly, like over time, like it starts making more and more sense to you in your head. Like in general, if you're fed a lot of like incorrect information again and again, I'm reading this book called 1984. I don't know if you guys have read it for like English class or something, but they basically like this authoritarian government, they changed all the news, although like all like the citizens remembered the old news, but just by deleting all traces of the old news, like everyone like forgot it even existed. Just by the power of like the things we tell ourselves and like the things we surround ourselves with, you can like create your own beliefs in a way that work well for you.
Personally, for affirmations, I usually do them like right when I wake up in the morning. I have a couple affirmations that I wrote down for myself and I just read them. I've learned that for myself personally, I personally don't say stuff like the generic like you're pretty sort of thing to myself just because I would never like believe myself. Or like that I'd find it like personally I'd just look at myself in the mirror, I'd just start laughing, just looking at myself saying that. But I think that overall, I just try to remind myself of certain concepts in life or like certain fundamental realities of my life situation. Like an example is that I tell myself every day that like I'm an observer of my life situation rather than a part of it, which is thank you. Yeah. Because like if I remind myself of certain concepts, it'll allow me to like have the right perspective when it comes to dealing with certain things, you know, like with certain situations. But that's how I usually do it, and it works wonders. I stopped doing it for like a month, like for the last month, and I recently started doing it like 3 days ago, conveniently, and it's like the effect is immediate. Yeah.
And another thing too about when to do affirmations, I learned about trying to do it every time you walk through a doorway. So like every time you walk through a doorway in your day, breathe in and breathe out, and kind of the affirmation that I was kind of taught was breathe in strength and breathe out weakness, and just even just by the practices by itself, like it's continuing to build your awareness. Because I don't know if this happened to you guys, but have you guys ever like walk into a room and then just completely forgot why you're in the room in the first place? And having that affirmation and in that state of consciousness when you're walking through a doorway and having that different change of like stimuli, I think that really like pushes in the awareness and the affirmation deep in your consciousness. So, yeah.
Thank you guys all so much. Those are really nice responses. I learned from them too.
All right, thank you guys so much. That concludes our program today. I definitely personally found it to be very beneficial. You can react if you found it to be beneficial, hopefully. Okay, yeah, thank you guys so much. Here is our next program, which will be at the same time, same link next week. And the topic will be superpower number 6 out of our 7 superpowers, and it's attain love and compassion. Does that seem something that you'd want to attain, love and compassion? If it seems interesting, then definitely join this program. If you have any questions for us, our email is hi@spiritualyouthcircle.com and our website is spiritualyouthcircle.com. All right, so thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll see you next week. Have a great day.
See you. Thank you.
Thank you.